Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Lynn Thompson. I'm the strategic advisor to the commissioner of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. We're known as the MEAC. And we're honored to partner with our teammates at Wells Fargo to bring the Beyond College web series to you. Now, for the past several months, we've jumped into some great topics with Wells Fargo, and we hope that you're ready for today's great episode. This is, I believe, episode number 7, and it's called Success Strategies for College, the Finance Edition. Did you know that an investment in college education is one of the biggest investments that you will make in your entire life? It takes a lot of planning and even more research. And one of the biggest planks on the platform for this year's presidential election is student loan debt. Wow, it's that big of a deal. And we're going to dive into a lot of that today. And that's why we got a team of great experts from Wells Fargo lined up to share info with you and to help you navigate forward. That's what we do in this web series. And that's why this partnership is so important. That's what it's all about. And as usual, to put this web series together, it takes a lot of expertise, a lot of sacrifices, some professionals who work behind the scenes to make this thing happen. And I got to call their names. Angel Heyman from Wells Fargo's Meeting and Events Planning Division. She's a pro and she does a great job each month. From the MEAC, Randy Brent and Dominique Garcia from our team who joined together to put this thing on. But none of this is possible without any one of them. We've got a moderator. You'll meet Dewey in just a few, and he's going to take it from here in a few minutes, and he's going to introduce our panelists. And these pros will give you all of the information that you're going to need to navigate through this important topic. You'll meet them on the screen in just a few minutes. This content is so important, and that's why Wells Fargo is committed to bringing this to you every month. Now, the MEAC is so proud to be in partnership with Wells Fargo. And let's talk about the MEAC. Who are we? The MEAC is the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. Actually, we're a consortium of 8 great institutions lined up across the eastern seaboard of America. We're HBCUs who are aligned by mission and vision. And for over 53 years, our job has been, quite frankly, to educate young people. Now, we get involved in athletics too, and we compete at the highest level of the NCAA. That's the Division I. And 14 championship sports we sponsor as a league. Football, we've been rolling with the HBCU National Championship game called the Cricket Celebration Bowl. We got March Madness. And this weekend in the ATL, where I happen to be right now, the MEAC SWAC Challenge is going to be on prime time this coming Saturday night, where Norfolk State University represents the MEAC against Florida A&M University from the SWAC. That's going to be at 7:30 kickoff, and you can watch HBCU football at its finest for the whole world to see, the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And I'm sure that our partners, Dewey, who's from Wells Fargo, will be there. And, Wells Fargo happens to be the MEAC Corporate Partner of the Year. And why? Because, well, they've earned that. They always are there in support of the initiatives that are going to educate and empower young students, young professionals like you. No other partner does, quite frankly, what Wells Fargo does. And that's why they have earned that title, the MEAC Corporate Partner of the Year. They deserve it, and you deserve the information that we're going to give to you today. And that's, quite frankly, who they are and what we do. Now, the MEAC is a real partner in this. And let's talk about the schools, the member institutions. Each month, we focus on one of them. This month, we happen to focus on North Carolina Central University. North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. The Eagles, established in 1910 as National Religious Training School, founded by Dr. James Shepard. The Eagles joined the MEAC as one of the founding members in 1970. And North Carolina Central is the number 9th ranked public school of regional universities in the South, with an enrollment of over 5,900 undergrads and close to 2,000 grads. Its top 2 majors are business administration, and criminal justice. Well, the Eagles kick off football season August 31st in Hard Rock Stadium in the Orange Blossom Classic in Miami against Alabama State University. That's going to be a great thing. I'm going to plan on being down there, and I know our partners from Wells Fargo are going to be there as well. They're also going to kick off the volleyball season against North Carolina A&T on August 30th. That's a big rivalry there. That's North Carolina Central University, our MEAC team of the month, our institution of the month. It's a heck of a deal for the MEAC to really team up with Wells Fargo. We're so proud to showcase all of the expertise from that corporation and from our member institutions, because this partnership is so important to all of us. Well, that's who we are. That's what Wells Fargo does. And now it's time for the main course. And to deliver that main course, there's a guy who I want to bring to the table now. And he's going to serve it up like only he can do. His name is Dewey Norwood. And Dewey, your job as the HBCU strategy and external management guy is to deliver it from here. Take it away, my brother.
Come on, Mr. Thompson. Give it up for Lynn Thompson, y'all. Mr. Thompson gives the best walk-up out of anybody. He walks you up like nobody's business. So, Lynn, just an honor and a privilege to work with you. Congratulations on all the amazing work that you and the team are doing across the MEAC. And like you said, you got an important ball game coming up. You said on prime time, so that's ABC prime time.
Yep. On
Saturday night. Okay, it's going to be exciting to see what Behold the green and gold can do versus the Rattlers, where they strike and strike and strike again.
That's right. But I'm also excited to hear this information that this team is going to share with these young people today. And I'll come back in just a few with some questions, So I can't wait to hear this information, man.
We're going to keep you connected in, sir. Well, team, again, welcome aboard, Dewey Norwood with Wells Fargo. An honor and a privilege to be able to have you on today. Welcome back to campus. Everybody's back on campus. I got on my old school campus here representing the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. So I got my 49er swag on today. So let's do a favor. The chat is open for business. Go ahead and drop in either the name of your university or where you are joining from, so we can get the roll call going with everything here for today. So feel free to use the chat, and we'll see as those items come in. Hey, from a Wells Fargo perspective, we'll see the next slide. You're going to see some connectivity in here around the work that we are doing across our institution. So $1.9 trillion in assets. Households that are connecting in all across, where we're providing goods and financial services to help individuals along their financial journey. You'll also see some other recaps in here relative to some of the other accolades that our firm has received, again, as we're looking for ways to support communities and help individuals grow and meet their financial goals. Very, very important pieces from there. Hey, as we jump forward, you'll see on the next slide a little bit about some of our strategic investments. So a huge shout out to our partners in the foundation and leaders across our group within diverse segments, representation, and inclusion that are engaging and supporting students along their higher education journey. Since 2012, this number has actually increased from what we have, over $140 million. $120 million that's been provided to support students across their higher education experience. If you disaggregate that data, we actually have now over $40 million that has gone specifically towards supporting historically Black colleges and universities and or organizations that support HBCUs. Significant investments that have been made there in those areas. I think it's important to note that as we jump into our conversation with things here for today. Hey, the next slide, I think is going to spotlight some of the work that we're doing around a signature property, what I consider a groundbreaking property that our firm has launched with our HBCU Legends debit card collection. You'll see 44 institutions that are listed here, where if you have a banking account with Wells Fargo, you can customize your banking experience and can actually change your debit card out to celebrate one of these amazing HBCUs. We also have some cards available for some of our limited edition perspectives. So the one for the Bayou Classic, the Florida Classic, the NY Football Classic, which is coming up for us next month. And as Mr. Thompson mentioned, the amazing Orange Blossom Classic that will be coming up with North Carolina Central and Alabama State. So You can customize your banking experience today. Hit that QR code and it'll take you out to the page to be able to do that. I've got one of our favorite cards here on the next slide, Casey, and this is a great card there for the MEAC. So step in with us, customize your banking experience, and grab that MEAC card today. Really, really handsome card that we have on that side. Hey, listen, team, we've got a lot of good stuff, and I want to go ahead and bring up our featured presenters here for today. Really excited that we have Sylvia Jones with us, who is a VP and a campus program manager. Just an amazing, amazing partner. We've been connected at the hip a lot around these programs in prior years. And Sylvia, it's always good to connect in with you. And she's got a partner in progress. I used to call him partner in crime, but they didn't like that. So the partner in progress in our good buddy, Casey Galindo. And Casey, again, also part of that great campus program manager team, focusing on helping students along their banking trajectory and making sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful. Sylvia, Casey, so happy to have you all on today. We got to do the roll call here with some of the schools we're seeing. So we got folks in LA, we got Ohio, we got a Connecticut here, we got the University of Virgin Islands, LA again, Cambridge, Mass. Shout out to Queens, Hollis, Queens, represent. We love that. We got UNCP on here. We got the University of North Florida out in Jacksonville. We got Wash U on Beijing, China, checking in with us here today. We got the Aggies from North Carolina A&T. We got Case Western. We got University of South Florida in Tampa. We got York College. Again, shout out Jamaica, Queens. H-Town in the house. University of Texas, Iowa State. We got so many that are here in the thread. So scholars, thank you all for dropping in. Shout out to Sac State as well there. It looks like we've got a good group of folks here, and I bet every single one of them is interested in the information that you all are going to be sharing relative to the paying for college process. So Sylvia, Casey, delighted to be back with you all again. And we're going to let you all take the reins from here, and then we'll get into some Q&A with Mr. Thompson and with the rest of the team in just a bit. So Sylvia, Casey, take it away.
Well, hey, thank you, Dewey, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, scholars. We're excited that you're here with us today. Casey and I have some exciting information to share with you. And more than anything, we're here to answer any questions that you have. But again, my name is Sylvia Jones. I actually sit in Macon, Georgia, so shout out to the Peach State. But just really happy to be here. I've been with Wells Fargo now for over 12 years, so excited to share with you, and we look forward to continuing the journey. Casey?
Thanks, Sylvia. And actually, Dewey, I call Sylvia my best friend, so she's my BFF. We're attached at the hip. But excited to be here with all of you scholars today. My name is Casey Galindo, and I'm actually joining you from the Lone Star State, so Texas, in San Antonio specifically. And I've actually been with Wells Fargo for 20 years. So this past June, it was 20 years. I don't know where the time went, but it has flown by, but love every minute of it. So as Dewey and Sylvia mentioned today, we're really excited to join you all today just to talk about exploring ways to pay for college. I know many of you are in college. Maybe some of you are joining us and have graduated and are thinking about continuing your education and going on to graduate school. So we want to go over some information with you today with regards to that. So we're going to be covering 4 different topics. First off, we'll talk about breaking down the cost of attending college. Then we'll talk about what we call your 5-step guide to paying for college. We'll talk about preparing financially for college. And as we wrap up, we'll share some additional tips with you. So hopefully this will be some information. You'll get some additional insight into the whole paying for college process. Hopefully you have everything that you need to pay your bill. I know many of you have probably started school this week or are starting next week. So again, hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions that you might have today. So as we get started, what we thought we'd start off first was just talking about breaking down the cost of attending college. Many of you have already received your award letter, and so either hopefully at this point you have everything covered. If not, maybe you're going to be exploring some additional options to help cover any remaining costs that wasn't covered with your financial aid. And when we really think about paying for college and the cost of college, your college education and this investment that you are making is the second biggest or largest investment, if you will, that most families will make. And it is paying for that college education. So what we wanted to do is talk about direct cost and indirect cost. So this is a big component of your educational expenses. So when we're looking at direct costs, that's going to be talking about everything that includes expenses charged directly to your student account. And that's something that's key, because when you're looking at the financial aid package, it's looking at covering all of your direct and indirect costs. But if you dive a little bit deeper, it'll help you to kind of break that information down. So again, your direct costs are going to be everything from the tuition that's going to be charged directly to your student account. It can be your on-campus housing, if any of our scholars today are on campus. It also can include your meal plan. So all of those, again, anything that is charged directly to your student account would be considered a direct cost. Next are going to be those indirect costs, and those are going to be expenses related to your education. So think about things that are not charged directly to your student account. So if we have any of our scholars joining us today and you live off campus, so you're responsible for paying the rent for your apartment that you live in, your utilities, your own transportation, on-campus parking, things like that. So those would be expenses that you're going to be responsible for that you can use financial aid to help cover, but ones that are not directly charged to your student account and that you have to pay to the institution directly. So again, we wanted to make that big difference between the two to help you understand what some of those costs are going to be that you're covering with your financial aid this year. Now, I mentioned the 5-step process earlier. What we're going to be walking through during our presentation today and our time today is we're going to talk about making sure you've completed the FAFSA. So if you haven't done so already, and the reason I say that is I know both Sylvia and I, in our previous life, we actually worked in financial aid. And sometimes I remember having students coming in at the start of classes and they hadn't applied for financial aid yet. So if any of our scholars joining today, if you haven't completed the FAFSA application, you need to make sure you do that as quickly as possible. Step 2 is going to be all about applying for scholarships. So some of you may have scholarships. It doesn't hurt to look for more scholarship opportunities. So we're going to touch on looking for scholarships as well. Then we're going to talk about estimating and comparing your total costs. So looking at that financial aid, looking at what those costs are that you're having to cover this semester and next semester as well. And then determining if you need additional money. And then we'll go into a little bit more depth in the last step in exploring those specific education or additional financing options that might be available to you. So let's go ahead and dive in first with the first step, which is going to be all about completing the FAFSA application. So one of the things, again, if you haven't done so, you need to make sure that you apply for financial aid. Now, every October 1st is the earliest that FAFSA application will open. I know this past year, many of you experienced some delays, if you will, with that application. So again, do be mindful that it will open up come October 1st for that following year. So we're getting towards the end of August here. You'll have September. Then come October 1st, you're going to start applying for financial aid. Again, for the upcoming year. So you're going to be looking at the 25-26 year, also summer school as well. So you want to make sure you're on top of that and just be mindful of that October 1st date. That's going to be really critical. You also want to set up your, through the studentaid.gov site, you want to set up your account with them as well. So what you use to fill out your FAFSA, you're going to hold on to that because every year you're going to be using that same ID to access the information online. As I mentioned before, you're going to complete that come October 1st. So next, you're going to receive and review the information that is processed from your free application for federal student aid or the FAFSA form. So you want to make sure that once it is processed, that you're reviewing all of that information to make sure it is correct. In the past, it used to be the student aid report, and I know now it's going to be the summary. So it has changed names. So you'll be receiving that. Again, just making sure to review that information. The other thing we always encourage students to do is check in with your financial aid office. Sometimes there is additional paperwork that has to be completed. And so you want to make sure that you have all of your documentation submitted, any additional forms that have to be completed. So check in with the financial aid office to make sure that all of that is complete as well. Now, the other thing, you want to make sure you're completing the FAFSA every single year that you're in school, whether that is your undergraduate studies, your graduate studies. Every year that you are in school, you will have to complete a FAFSA application. So do know it's not a one-time, it is something that you will continuously do throughout your undergraduate studies, as well as your graduate professional as well. Now, one of the things that I also wanted to share is if you have any sort of extenuating circumstances. Sometimes students will say, you know, things have changed in our household, my family's household. It's not actually as it was reported on the FAFSA application when we completed that information. If you are in any of those situations, maybe things changed from last year going into this year, make sure you reach out to the financial aid office because they may be able to take into consideration some of those extenuating circumstances. So for example, maybe there has been a change in the household income that hasn't been taken into consideration. You want to definitely, again, reach out to the financial aid office because there will be some documents that more than likely you're going to have to complete with supporting documentations. But again, if there are things that have changed with regards to the information that was provided on the FAFSA, you definitely want to reach out to the financial aid office, let them know what's going on. That way they can tell you what the next steps are going to be and take that into consideration. So now let's go ahead and talk about the different types of financial aid. So some of this is going to look familiar because maybe some of you are taking advantage of these different types of financial aid programs that are available, but wanted to go through some of those in a little bit more detail. So the Pell Grants are going to be the first thing that you see listed. These are going to be need-based type grants for undergraduate students. Now, this is money that doesn't have to be paid back unless you were to withdraw from school earlier for any particular reason. So again, this is something that will be determined based on the information that is provided on your FAFSA application, and financial aid will use that information to determine how much you would be eligible for. Next is going to be state aid. So this may be available for any of our scholars who are attending college in their state of residence. So I know, for example, I mentioned I'm joining you all today from Texas. Texas has several different grant programs that are available for students who are attending school within the state of Texas. So that varies from state to state as far as what those grant programs are. But again, financial aid will determine, the financial aid office will determine that eligibility, and they use the FAFSA information for that. The next one is going to be institutional aid. So maybe some of you joining today are receiving grants from the university directly. So sometimes the colleges and universities will have different grant programs. Sometimes it may be scholarship programs that they provide to the students to help pay for those educational expenses. Next will be the work study program. So some of you maybe are doing work study. I know I myself had work study when I was in college. It was a great way to help be able to pay for some of those educational expenses. This is going to be considered what we often say is a need-based type program. So you have to demonstrate that financial need in order to qualify for the program. So this could be a way to earn money by working part-time on campus. So it gives a little bit more flexibility. I often will share with students, you know, maybe in the past you haven't taken advantage of the work study program or even thought about it. Maybe you have some friends who are taking advantage of it, but maybe if you're looking for some part-time work, something to consider is see if you might qualify for the work study program. Next is going to be the federal direct loans. And these are going to be loans that are both subsidized and unsubsidized. They're available to undergraduate students. They're also available to graduate students who are attending at least half-time. Now, as the name says, they're loans, so they do have to be repaid 6 months typically, as long as you're enrolled at least half-time after graduation. So it is a way to help pay for educational expenses that maybe weren't covered with the scholarships and grants that you have, or even work study. I know for myself, I can tell you I literally had pretty much everything on this, from the Pell Grants all the way down to the student loans when it came to paying for my educational expenses. So, you know, nobody likes taking out loans. For me, it was a necessity. My parents were not in a position where they could pay out of pocket, and I still needed to take on some additional expenses, and this was a way to help me cover those expenses at the university. So what I wanted to do now is hand it over to Sylvia, and she's going to go ahead and pick up talking about specifically scholarships.
Well, thank you, Casey. And again, welcome everyone. Now, Casey shared some great information about the federal process. And so you always want to complete the FAFSA every single year because your circumstances may change, right? So you need to do that every year. But also you want to apply for scholarships. And applying for scholarships is key because you all know that the financial aid, the type of aid you can get from the FAFSA most likely will not cover everything. And you want to be rewarded for your academic performance, maybe your athletic performance. So there's different types of scholarships. So one of the things that I'll tell you is that a lot of times you focus on applying for scholarships your senior year of high school or right before you start graduate school. And what we'll challenge you to do is you need to apply for scholarships every single year. As long as you're in college, you need to be applying for scholarships. And we recommend that you apply for 5 to 6 scholarships per week. And you might say, oh my gosh, that's a lot. It is a lot. However, if you apply for, if you're consistent and you're using it like a job where you're actually applying for scholarships consistently, I bet you're going to get some of those scholarships. You know, you can't stop at 1 or 2. You have to apply for many scholarships because they are competitive, right? I remember I was at a workshop and I was talking to students about the number of scholarships that they need to apply for and just consistently do that. And one of them, she said that, it just is so time consuming. But another student said, yes, it's time consuming, but they did receive a scholarship and it was like $3,000. And I said, well, how long did it take you to go through that? And he said, well, I invested some time, a couple of hours. So how many of us out there can say we make $1,500 an hour, right? So if you put just a few hours in and get a large scholarship, it's really not that time consuming if you think about it. So that's one of the things that you want to do is always apply for scholarships every single year that you're in school. And so some tips are, we have a great scholarship website. It's actually an entire resource center. So it's wellsfargo.com/scholarships. You can search scholarships there. You can find great tools that will help you navigate that process so that it's not so overwhelming. And one of the things that I will tell you is that what I did and what I encourage my kids to do is create a spreadsheet, and start basically listing all of those scholarships that you're actually eligible for. List the deadlines, list how much the scholarship is for, and then just be consistent with it. Because the one thing you don't want to do is miss a deadline, because if you miss a deadline, you're almost guaranteed you're not going to get that scholarship. So you have to be organized, and that's key when you're applying for a lot of scholarships. You also want to make sure that you apply early. So don't wait till the last minute and don't apply on the last date of the scholarship that you're eligible to apply. Now, if you waited to that point, that's fine. But try to apply early. Don't wait till the last minute because you never know what's going to happen, right? Maybe your computer's not working that day or something, but always try to apply sooner than later. And the other thing that I would encourage you to do is really look at the qualifications, right? You want to make sure that you're eligible to apply for the scholarship, that you meet all the criteria. And so that will save you some time too. So I would say don't apply for scholarships that you really aren't eligible to receive and hope you get it, because that's a long shot, a real long shot. So you want to make sure that you know the criteria, you understand the criteria, and you apply for those scholarships that you're actually eligible for. And if you go to our resource center, you will actually find one of the scholarship links that we talk about there is tuitionfundingsources.com. And you can actually build a profile. And based on the profile that you build and self-report, it will give you an actual list of scholarships that you're eligible for. And then you can apply for those scholarships. So it's a great, robust site. I encourage you to go out and check it out, wellsfargo.com/scholarships. And then make it a goal of yours to apply for at least 5 to 6 per week, or maybe fewer once you get going into school and actually have to start work, but just make sure you're consistent with applying. So now let's talk about step 3, estimating the cost of college. And so one of the things that you can do, even now as a freshman, you can even look at, what might it cost you next year, but you probably have a good idea. But one of the great tools out there is called the net price calculator. And it's a way for you to determine upfront what it may cost you to attend a certain college. Now, we all know that different colleges have different costs. So this net price calculator is a great way for you to look at colleges individually and see what they cost, and also see potentially what type of financial aid you might receive if you attend that college. And so the way to do that is you go to any college's or university's website, and on the website, just Google or search for net price calculator. And every institution has to have one. It's a federal thing that they have to do. And so when you get the net price calculator, you want to put in information about yourself. Are you going to live on campus, off campus, with your parents? It will basically give you a lot of different fields that you can fill in. It'll give you ask you questions about income, and then after you do the calculation or hit submit, it'll come up and it'll give you an idea of, if you attend X university, this is what it will approximately cost, and here's the type of financial aid that you may receive. Now, what I will say is that it's absolutely an estimate of your college costs and an estimate of what you might receive if you attend that school, but it will give you a great idea of what to expect. And so we encourage you to check out the net price calculator on any college or university that you're looking at. And also, if you play with the variables, it will change based on living on campus or off campus or with your parents. Or say if you're trying to save some money, maybe you change your meal plan, but you just do different things on the calculator and it'll give you a great idea of what you might be eligible for. And one of the things that we have on our site, on a Get College Ready site, and all you have to do is go to basically a search engine, Wells Fargo plus Get College Ready, and you can look at different side by side, look at different colleges, what they may cost you. So that's also a great resource for you, Get College Ready. And not only that, it has the Get College Ready site has a number of different things that you might want to take advantage of. So I encourage all of you to take a look at our Get College Ready site. So now let's go to step 4 when it comes to paying for college. And when you think about it, you know, you guys are already there. So you might be, in some of you anyway, you might be already in this situation. You know, do you need additional funding? All right. And so maybe right now, I know we're just into maybe week 2 or week 1 in some cases on a campus. And so you still may have a remaining balance. But this is how you would determine if you need additional funding. Of course, you guys can look at your bill, but also look at the different costs of attendance. So those fixed costs that Casey talked about. So tuition and fees, room and board if you're living in the dorms. And then some other costs, variable costs like books and supplies that will depend on you, your major, transportation, personal expenses. So you add up all the costs, you subtract the financial aid that you're going to receive, those grants and scholarships, the federal work study, student loans that you've accepted. So you subtract that, and then you're going to get, is there a gap between the cost and your financial aid, right? And if there is a gap, then you got to figure out how to pay for that. And maybe some of you are actually in that situation right now. And I know that can be difficult, but one of the other things that I will say that you don't really see here listed is that you want to make sure that you do some networking. If you still have a bill right now, go to the financial aid office, talk to those folks in the financial aid office. Once you build some rapport on campus, just find out different ways. How are other students paying for their education, right? So just make sure you open up all those doors and look at all of the options. Don't give up. If you have a bill right now, just ask questions. See, is there anything else that you can do to help cover those costs? So let's go to step 5. And so let's say that you do have that gap in covering that cost. So let's say, for example, if it costs $10,000 and all of your financial aid and what you had available was $8,000. So now you have this $2,000 gap that you need to make up, right? And so here are some of the options, because you're going to have to do some research to make sure that you handle your bill. But one of the things that I really like is the tuition payment plan. And most colleges, if not all colleges and universities, have what's called a tuition payment plan. So what that means is that $2,000 that you owe, you can sign up so that you have a monthly bill that you can I guess it'll they will break it up into however many months are remaining in that semester, so that you can take 1 month at a time and just pay on that remaining balance. Okay, so that's called a tuition payment plan. You could check with the financial aid office to see if they have that plan. And like I said, most do, but that won't cost you necessarily anything like interest and student loans. So the tuition payment plan is really a great resource for you to use if you have a balance. Now, granted, you will have to have the money to pay that monthly fee, and it will have to be paid by the end of the semester. But it is a great way, if you can, to pay that tuition that's remaining without having to take out a loan. And with that being said, another way is if you look at your award letter, you've already probably most likely received the Stafford loans or federal direct student loans that Casey talked about, right? And another way to fund that balance is called the PLUS loans, okay? That's an additional federal loan that you may be eligible to apply for, and you can check with the financial aid office. But the way the federal PLUS loans work, if you're an undergraduate student, it's going to be a parent loan for undergraduate students. So this is a loan that your parents would take out on your behalf. The loan is in the parents' name, but it is a way that they can pay off your remaining balance. So that's called a parent loan or a federal direct PLUS loan. If you're a graduate student, you can also get a direct PLUS loan. Okay, now that as a graduate student, it would be in your name, but it is another way to pay off whatever balance that you have. Now, when you're looking at the federal loans, one of the things that you want to make sure that you look at the interest rate. Typically, those interest rates are fixed, but you want to know what the interest rate is. You want to look at origination fees because you really want to know what is that loan going to cost you. So you have to think ahead. And then you also want to make sure that you understand when repayment on that loan begins. Okay, so those are the PLUS loans. Another option that you have to pay off that balance is a private loan from private institutions that offer student loans. And so with a private loan, as an undergraduate student, you may have to get a co-signer for that. And a co-signer can be anyone. It can be a parent, it could be a relative, a friend, a spouse, but you may need a co-signer. And for the private loan, if you do need a co-signer, just know that it may help you actually get a loan approval. And so a co-signer will bring strength to your application, especially if you're just starting your credit, journey, if you will. So a co-signer is important, not only to help you get approved for the loan, but it also may help you get a lower interest rate if you have a strong co-signer with a great credit score. Okay, so that's something that you need to consider, but also know that with that co-signer, they are taking on the responsibility of if you don't pay that loan back, they're going to be next in line to do so. But a co-signer could be a great way for you to actually get a loan approved and to lower your interest rate. And when you think of debt, and when students graduate, you really don't want to graduate with a lot of debt and be burdened with it for years and years. And so one of the things that we recommend at Wells Fargo is that this tip that you see here, you want to make sure that your student loan debt, okay, does not exceed your first annual salary that you will receive after graduation. And if you think about that, that really can put it in perspective. So depending on what your major is going to be, depending on, the time that it takes you to graduate, you really want to stay within something that you can manage as far as your student loan debt. And so that's one of the key things that we do recommend. And you don't have to guess because, we usually over guess what we're going to make our first year out of college. You can go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So that's bls.gov/EMP to find out what is that first year salary after I graduate based on my major, where I'm going to live. So figure that out. And based on that, you don't want to exceed that amount of total borrowing, not just the first year, but total borrowing, so that when you graduate, it's something that you can pay back without a whole lot of stress. So let me give you some additional tips, but those are the 5 steps in paying for college. And so some additional tips on preparing financially. And, you know, the key honestly is the sooner the better. So if you're in a position where you have more time to plan, planning is key in paying for college, because if you're able to plan, then you're able to save. And one of the ways to do that is through a college savings account. It's called the 529 plan. You have conversations with your parents about that. Another way is one of the things that you want to think about when you're trying to prepare and plan for college. You know, we talk about residency. So if you're going to a state institution, right? And let's say you're already there and you're from the state of Georgia, but you're going to school in Texas, then you're not considered a resident of Texas. So you're going to be paying non-resident tuition, which is going to be higher. Some students want to become a resident of the state that they attend college in. And if you plan on doing that, you want to have a conversation with the financial aid office to see what it takes for you to be a resident of that state, so that potentially you're paying less. And so you want to make sure that you know what the residency requirements are, and you work on getting residency if that's something that you want to consider doing. So make sure you're on point with that. And then also, you want to check with the financial aid office as far as if you're getting any other outside aid. You want to let them know what that is, because that could potentially affect your award package. So just know what that is. And then also, as a college student, one of the things that you want to really do is reevaluate your budget. You know, is there something that you can do differently to save more, to borrow less? You always want to think about that. And so I would tell you, one of the things that I did have my kids do prior to going to school was, not just showing them how to do their laundry, making sure they knew how to do that, but we really did work on budgeting, savings. Those summer jobs that they had to deposit that money into their account because, they had to put some skin in the game. So look at how to budget better, right? Look at eliminating any consumer debt, especially if you're thinking about going to graduate school, lowering that debt, and save as much as possible. And then try to reduce some of those expenses that you currently have. You have to make sure that you're intentional with your savings when it comes to education. And then finally, what I will say is that, for those of you parents that are considering looking into, your retirement funds to fund your kids' education, we recommend that you talk to your financial advisor before you do that. Hopefully you'll figure out a different option, because you don't necessarily want to touch that retirement, but you want to consult with your financial advisor and get some more tips on that. Next slide. And so finally, guys, we really want to get to some of your questions. So here are some of the information that we talked about as we wrap up today. So for some information on getting college ready, managing your money, please go to wellsfargo.com/college steps. And I will tell you, it has so much information out there. It has information on getting part-time jobs, on budgeting, on savings, on credit. One of the things that I don't think I mentioned was that we have a great YouTube channel, and the QR code is right there. We have information on budgeting. We have information on credit, how to get credit, the fundamentals of credit. So if you scan that QR code there, you will find a lot of our YouTube videos that are just great. We have a lot of webinars there. And also, if you want to receive information just on finances in general, wellsfargo.com/college resources, you can go in there and create your own profile, and it will be specific. If you want information on credit, on budgeting, on college savings, whatever the case may be, you can customize it to what your needs are, and we will target and send that specific information to you. So with that, I believe I will, after I talk about this slide, we'll turn it over to Dewey. But feel free to make an appointment if you have any questions about Wells Fargo or would like more information. And so I'll turn it over to Dewey or Lynn to do the Q&A section.
Yeah, Sylvia, Casey, kudos here. A ton of really, really great information. And we do have a couple of questions that have come in via the chat feature. So Tim, if we can, let's go ahead and bring Mr. Thompson on. We'll actually let him address those directly. But I'd love to start with one if that's okay. And scholars, as a reminder, the Q&A box is open for business. We're going to take our questions directly through there rather than taking them directly via the Zoom meeting. So please submit them there. As an added piece, we will never, ever, under any circumstances, call your name out in class. We're not going to do that. But I guarantee you, if you've got a question, there's someone else that's on, or somebody that's listening to the playback. So the folks who listen to playback, thank you. Somebody has that same question. Please ask, because you're going to get it for you, and you're going to be able to pay it forward for someone else. Sylvia, Casey, I heard you all say several times the FAFSA, the FAFSA, the FAFSA. Just remind some folks, what is the FAFSA again? And you said every year. Why do I have to do it every year?
Perfect. So the FAFSA that's a great question. The FAFSA is short. What it really stands for is Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And that is pretty much the form that is used to determine financial aid for all different types of programs. You're looking at federal programs, state programs, institutional programs. So when it comes to looking at how am I going to pay for undergrad, how am I going to pay for grad school, the first thing you need to do is complete that FAFSA form. And it is a yearly process. So you will need to fill it out every year that you are in school. Like I mentioned, sometimes I had students who were coming the first day of classes and said, I didn't have to do that last year. And I'm like, yes, you did. So again, keep in mind, you have to fill it out every single year that you're in school, whether it's your undergraduate studies. If you decide you're going on to grad professional school, you will also need to complete it. And again, it's the information that's used by financial aid, the financial aid office, to determine eligibility for different types of financial aid programs.
Okay, perfect. It's fairly easy to fill out, Casey and Sylvia. Is it a long process? Do I need tax documents? What do I need to do it in a very, very efficient way?
Yes, well, and so you can chime in too. So it's gotten easier. I will say there aren't as many questions from back in the day when we were all in school. So it is definitely shorter in length, which hopefully translates into a lot easier, but you are providing income information. However, it has been simplified to where you actually are able to, you will be authorizing, if you will, for them to pull information directly from IRS. So you don't have to worry about going and hunting all of that down. They are going to automatically extract that information.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, I want to hand the reins to you. We've got a follow-up question that came in from one of our participants today. Well, maybe we start with that one, Doc, and just keep it rolling.
Yeah, I think that follow-up question has something to do with maxing out the amount of aid you get, and then the possibility of investing that into an interest-bearing account to possibly make money off of that debt. Is that possible?
Well,
Creative.
there's a strategy, right? Hey, wow. So, you know, we're not financial investment advisors, but what I honestly, I don't know that that's the best idea. I would just say, you know, certainly I would not do that if you're talking about borrowing. You know, like if part of the excess money that you receive is from student loans, then I would not go that route, because depending on the type of loan that you get, for example, unsubsidized federal student loan, you're already paying interest. You're already being charged interest on that. So I would say never, you know, borrow to invest. That's just not a wise investment. But yeah, if you have additional funds after your scholarships and grants, you know, we can advise you what to do with that, but that's different. I would just say don't borrow to invest.
Okay, and FAFSA, are international students eligible for FAFSA to apply?
You do have to have a social security number. You do have to be a U.S. citizen to apply for the federal funding. However, you know, you can definitely, as international students, you can check with the financial aid office to see if there are any sort of scholarships or grant opportunities that might be available for international students. Check with financial aid office, or even check with the particular, like the International Student Scholarship Office. So the office that you're working with for all of your documents, check with them to see if maybe they have information on scholarships or other grant opportunities available for international students. For any students maybe who might be undocumented students, also check with the financial aid office because there may be some funding that is available. So you definitely want to check with them as well.
During the course of a student's matriculation process, normally coming in as freshmen, you have to rely on the income of your parents. And then you turn 21 sometimes in that process. What about the process of becoming an independent adult? Can we talk about that? Because sometimes you got to depend on your parents' income, and you know that certainly has a bearing on your ability and the loan. And then when did you become independent and seek to get loans and financial aid yourself?
So I'll start, and Casey, you can, and as far as I know, it's still 24, is it not, Casey?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have a while to wait that dependency out. So there are certain things that will automatically trigger whether or not a student is considered dependent or independent. And age, it's going to be 24. So they pretty much get you through that undergraduate period. Now there's some other things that will automatically make you independent. However, you know, there's always special circumstances that you know, a student can talk to the financial aid office and they can have them do an appeal or something like that. But what the FAFSA does, it really doesn't, it measures the parent's ability to pay versus their willingness to pay, right? And so if a student though is in a situation where, you know, maybe they're estranged or something a little more deep, then they can certainly sit down with the financial aid office and do some type of an appeal. And if that's approved, the financial aid office has the ability to override that status. But that's kind of few and far between. And one of the things that they do look at too is income, and are you able to support yourself, right? So you have to be able to show and prove certain things in order to truly be considered independent student.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'll just add, there are some questions when there's going to be a series of questions when you complete the FAFSA where it is tied to that dependency. So it will if you can't answer yes to one of those questions, then technically you would be considered a dependent student.
Okay. Here's another question. Some interesting questions coming in now. Here's a particular question about a person that works an internship for a nonprofit who happens to be a partner in the state of California, where they provide tuition-free coding, design, and marketing boot camps and paid internships. They said, we provide a low barrier pathway into lucrative technology careers. Considering this is a non-traditional work, can we still qualify for loans? Example, this person wants to pursue an MBA, but it's, you know, not currently making enough money. Would that meet the threshold for securing a loan?
I'll try to answer. I hopefully, I mean, I'm not sure that I totally fully understood the question, but what I will say is that, so depending on the school that you attend, if that school participates in the federal financial aid programs, then you absolutely can fill out the FAFSA again, list that school as the school that you're attending. The financial aid office will get your information and they will award you accordingly based on the number of credits that you're taking. And so if the school is a participant in the federal financial aid programs, then and you meet the other eligibility criteria, you should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, do you do one FAFSA for each child if you got more than one child? If you got two kids, so you got to duplicate the process?
Yes, you have to do the FAFSA for every single student that is attending. And if you as a parent are attending, you have to do your own FAFSA. If you have twins, they still have to do, you know, each has to have a complete FAFSA done in their name. So yes, every year. And I will say for me, one of my mistakes as a student was that I completed the FAFSA my first year. I didn't really get anything. And so, and at the time I didn't want loans. Um, and so I never completed it again. But knowing what I know today, I should have completed it my second year, because the second year, my sister had started school, so we had two in college. My father had changed careers, and so just a lot of financial things that had happened or happened in my during my second year of college that I really should have applied. So we absolutely encourage you to apply every single year that you're in college.
Okay, so the only way, and I want to make sure that for our participants here, the only way to determine if you're going to qualify basically for loans or for the federal program is to complete the FAFSA.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So because there's a question here that a participant was saying that they believe they might have maxed out on their grants, and a friend told them that they're, even though they were pursuing their bachelor's degree, then they could still qualify. But the only way to determine what you qualify for is to complete the FAFSA.
Right.
Now,
So I will say this. Go ahead, Case. You should start. Go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing they would want to do is definitely connect and go to the financial aid office,
Right.
because there are, for example, Sylvia talked about private student loans that are sometimes an option that can be considered to fill a gap, if you will, if there wasn't enough financial aid. Sometimes private loans will give you flexibility to use those to help pay for expenses if, say, you don't qualify for federal financial aid for any reason. So the FAFSA form, they definitely needs to be completed. It doesn't cost you to complete it. But if you are in a situation where you do know that you have maxed out, maybe, for example, Pell Grant eligibility, or you've maxed out your federal direct loan eligibility, go to the financial aid office, because they'll be able to walk you through any other opportunities for funding that might be available. Some of them might include, for example, like private student loans or a plus loan, but definitely connecting with them to explore what are those financing options that are available.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Here's I do know when I worked on campus, particularly in the state of Florida, there were a lot of kids who had difficulty getting FAFSAs completed because one or both parents were illegal aliens, you know, and they could not or would not complete the FAFSAs. Any advice on that? Because a lot of kids had to go to the financial aid office and appeal and say, maybe I have to do this myself, because the parents just said we can't, we're not going to qualify. We don't want to be discovered or something like that, you know. And so the kid was born in was a citizen. But they, you know, and so is that where you complete a waiver, or you deal with the financial aid office? May not be 24 years old, but may qualify.
Well, I'll just say quickly, and then Casey, you jump in. And so I would say absolutely yes. You know, if you have extenuating circumstances, you do need to go to the financial aid office and sit down and talk about and work through the process, right? And it just depends. Every financial aid office is different. While there are rules and regulations, you just have to go and kind of tell your story, if you will. And I will tell you this, in the aid office that I worked at, sometimes we simply just could not, you know, you just really weren't eligible to complete the FAFSA, but we did have other programs that we would direct that student to, because that is a big thing in the financial aid office. So they're aware, they can help you, the sooner the better. But yeah, we in the financial aid office, they really do try to meet your needs as much as possible based on the constraints that they have. So absolutely take advantage of that, because a lot of times they will have other options for you that may be outside of of completing the FAFSA.
Before I turn it back over to Dewey, I guess I heard you say it earlier, and that's about the deadlines, because one of the things that, from a national standpoint, there are so many scholarships out there and no applicants. And I'm on the board of a couple of organizations that award scholarships, and we have been begging for students to apply, and there's money sitting out there and no applicants. And so I heard you loud and clear, and I hope that many of our participants are taking heed to what you have said.
Absolutely.
Do it, early and often.
Yes.
And apply as often as you can, because there's a lot of money out there available to be awarded to many of these participants out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, any more questions out there? Because we got just a few more minutes before Dewey comes in. And Dewey, you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, Mr. Thompson, again, I wanted to just reiterate, we'll make this kind of the last call for any questions that are out there. The ones that have come in, really interesting, the number of FAFSA questions that we've had today, team. So this is very, very timely. Remind us again of the opening date. I think you said October the 1st, so we're what, a little bit a month and some change away?
Yep, for the upcoming academic year. I know this year many of our scholars probably experienced, because there were updates and
Yeah.
the application didn't open up October 1st. It threw off a lot of the financial aid timing. But back on track, it should open up come October 1st for that next academic year, if you will.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mr. Thompson, I'm not seeing anything else that's
No.
dropping in the box here. We'll maybe grab a closing thought from you, and then one from Casey and Sylvia, and go into our last items for today.
Before I go, I just want to say that, an education and the investment in an education reaps untold benefits. And it's the most, I think it's the greatest investment in your life. And for those participants who are here today, I think the questions that they're asking, they've raised are very pertinent questions. It's the greatest thing that I did in my life. And working on a college campus for 30 years, I've seen students who came in there and it transformed their lives. And I think everybody here on the panel, both of you, all of you, were like me. Where would I be without this education? And I thank God I've got friends who even had their loans. My wife works in the lending business and student loan forgiveness, and so many of her friends had their student loans forgiven this year, and I just, they're so happy, because there was hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans forgiven, and so this is something that is very, very, very well thought out. I commend you on the information that you've shared with them today, and very timely. This entire web series, I'm so happy to be a part of this, doing the team with Wells Fargo. I can't wait for next month, because you're going to serve up another buffet of phenomenal information. So I thank you for that. Okay.
All right. Mr. Thompson, we appreciate that. Casey, Sylvia, will do the same thing, extend to you all another opportunity for maybe a closing thought or maybe an action item. And I do want to say this, scholars, again, we had a lot of FAFSA questions that came in. If you did not get an opportunity to submit a question, we did include Casey and Sylvia's LinkedIn information. The only thing is they're going to charge you double for when you reach out to them after the show, what you paid for admission here today. But no, send them a note, give them some time. That will require logging into a LinkedIn account or creating one. Very, very important to note that. But you heard it. They are subject matter experts in this space. Do not miss out on an opportunity to pose a question to them directly, and they will answer it in the exact same way. So, Casey, Sylvia, who wants to go first? Closing thought.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, let's Casey. Let Sylvia go first.
Yes. Now Casey is a drop the mic, so I'll let her close out. But hey, listen, I would just say this, you're in your first, second week, or some of you are thinking about going, just don't give up. You got to put forth that effort, and it is the best investment that you'll make. I mean, you can go out and buy a car, make payments. Why? If you need to borrow, but don't borrow more than you need. Remember what we said, that first year salary, try to stick, with that and not over borrow. And so that's what I would say, because it is a great investment. It is a life changer. And it's something that, you know, you want to take a part of. And also, it was some of the best years of my life. And I will tell you this weekend, I'm not in Georgia. I'm in another state, but I'm about to have a reunion with my college roommates, believe it or not. So it's friendships that last a
Yeah.
lifetime. So hang in there.
Class of 2010.
There
Sylvia
you
Jones.
go. Stop.
Excellent. No, I'll just add, if there are ever any questions, do not hesitate to go to the financial aid office. They are amazing people. They are there to help you and they want to help you. Don't feel like, you know, it's a dumb question or maybe there's nothing for your situation. Talk to them. They're there to help you. And I would also recommend applying for scholarships. I actually did my work study in financial aid and I did not apply for as many scholarships as I should have. And that probably would have helped with the amount I winded up borrowing in student loans. So I know Sylvia mentioned earlier, it's a lot of work. It's not fun, right? It's not fun filling out applications or writing essays. I get that. Keep a file of all of your essays, repurpose them. Oftentimes, a lot of the scholarship applications have similar essay, themes that they're asking for, but it is a lot of work. But in the long run, it can help reduce potentially some of that student loan debt that you have to take on if you do. If you don't, fantastic. But, apply for scholarships, apply often, apply for as many as you can, because it definitely can help you. I know it's a lot of work, and I will say that because I'm one of those who's like, oh, I don't want to do the work, but it can pay off. Even those smaller scholarships can add up quickly.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Casey Galindo, that's Sylvia Jones, and Lynn Thompson. Amazing, amazing information. And again, we had their QR codes on the screen earlier. We also dropped them into the chat, so make sure that you all stay connected with all three of them accordingly. Very, very important to get your questions answered. And in the chat, man, folks are saying, enjoyed this. Thank you so much for the helpful information. Thanks, panelists. Great information. So I'm going to double y'all's salary next time. Casey, this is your third webinar of the year with us. Is that right?
Yes, yes. I love it, Dewey. I mean, how long? I mean, it may be the third one this year, but Sylvia and I have been working with you over a decade.
Long time. Long. I can't get rid of them. Team, they keep following me around. Keep following me. Now I'm following them. So, Case, we appreciate it, and just thank you all for the great information. And what I would say again, for anyone that's listening to the playback or that's still on, make sure that you are sharing this information with others. Maybe folks couldn't get on it. They were in class or doing the work study or at a sports event or something and couldn't participate. So share this information with others to continue to pay it forward. Hey, some reminders. We're going to get everybody out of here super early today, which is really, really nice. Beyond College Webinar Series, you heard it mentioned earlier. We are now 8 down, team, essentially with just a couple more to go here relative to things. And so you'll see the breakouts for everything that we've covered so far, January through June. You'll also see now on the next slide, the session that we completed in July, our biggest one of the year, over 1,300 folks registered. So thank you, scholars, for getting out there and jumping in. And then obviously the playback that we have for today will be updated on the site accordingly. But we got 3 to go, and I want to talk about them very quickly. Social media smarts and cybersecurity. This in some ways is going to connect back to our session that we did back in June that was focused on elder fraud awareness and elder fraud prevention. So if you missed that one, you got to go back and watch that one. It's like the prerequisite, Mr. Thompson, before they join in September. You got to go back and watch that one. Buckle your seatbelts for social media smarts and cybersecurity. We're going to bring in industry experts. We're also going to have a Wells Fargo leader who's going to be on sharing experience from the bank's perspective around some things you all need to think and keep in mind relative to your social media brand and just being cyber safe. It's one of my favorite sessions of the year. Bookmark it now. Share that information on your social media handles. Encourage everybody in the frat, everybody in the sorority, everybody in the gospel choir to come and be a part too. October to Get Smart About Credit Month. Join us as we unbox credit matters that matter. Great session. A little bit of an extension of some of the things here. Maybe we'll invite Sylvia back to talk about credit too. So she get it. I think when you do 4 in a year, you get a set of steak knives or something, Sylvia, or a toaster. I think that's how it works between you and Casey. We'll figure that out. But unboxing credit matters that matter. Really important topic that will be coming up for us in October. So hit the link there. And then last but not least, your path to home ownership. This is a new session for us. Really excited about the work that's happening with Chuck Bishop and Wanake Brady and our other partners on the mortgage side of the house. You're going to hear firsthand from them the process. You may say, oh man, I'm just a freshman in college. I'm really not thinking about buying a home. This session may give you some insight that helps you rethink that in some way, shape, or form. So be sure to register and join us for that session. It will be really, really exciting. They're coming up on November the 7th. All right, our last couple of items here. Casey, as we jump to the next slide with things, don't forget, the A Different World Tour is coming to a campus near you. Scan this QR code. You can jump out to the tour website and learn more. If you're interested in having this amazing tour come to your campus and are interested in participating in some way, shape, or form, fill out the form that's there. Maybe you're a corporate partner that's listening to this. Maybe you want to find a way to engage with the tour or support the tour in some way, shape, or form. Get in contact with the folks there on that landing page and they can give you all of the information. So huge shout out to Daryl and to the team for the amazing work that they're doing with ADW and to our Wells Fargo leaders that are leading the charge around this work. Pretty cool space. Stand by for more details coming up for the session that's going to be launching in September and then throughout the fall and then continuing into 2025. Hey, last but not least, a couple of items. I'm going to start on the right side of the page this time. LifeSync. I had a partner internally who reminded us today of this amazing resource. So just remember, this is a place where you can go to start building your financial future. Maybe you're thinking about starting to invest. Maybe you're thinking about starting your savings account. Go to an organization or to people that you know you can trust and get great information from. You can access that via this LifeSync tool. You got to get connected in there. And again, we can share more information, but hit the QR code to kind of start the conversation. To the left side of the page, the talent community. Hey, listen, it's time to start thinking about those internships now for 2025 summer. It's time to start thinking about those full-time roles for those that are going to be graduating maybe in December or folks that will be finishing in the spring of 2025. Go ahead and get connected to that talent community. Make sure you're staying looped in on all of the recruitment opportunities that are happening across the institution. Last but not least, this kind of is a dovetail on the LifeSync components of things. We hope that you're getting value from this, and we hope and believe that you're seeing Wells Fargo as an organization that wants to help you build a strong financial future. To do that, you've got to make sure that you've got the resources that you need. Use that QR code there, set up an appointment with a banker in your local market or region, or make a telephone call to the folks in our customer contact areas that can give you some more guidance and insight on some of the things that you may need to be thinking about for a savings account, for a checking account, for the other products, for getting that HBCU Legends debit card, whether it's for the MEAC or for another organization, maybe one of the schools that you see listed here. So make sure that you're tapping into those resources and getting the information that you know is going to be helpful for you. My closing thought here is, again, just to thank our partners for the amazing information that they shared. And I want to remind everyone to join us for our session in September that's going to be focused on social media smarts and cyber safety. I promise you, this is one of our most engaging sessions of the year. We normally get lots of questions. And for our panelists that are going to be coming in, they pull no punches. It is a very, very candid conversation about the things that you need to be thinking about to remain cyber safe and candidly being able to protect your other family members and or friends in those same types of ways. So, Mr. Thompson, thank you. Randy, thank you. Everybody from the MEAC side of the house, just thank you all for everything. I know Dominique is out there probably somewhere working, and Patricia and Commissioner Stills, others, just thank you all so much. And to our Wells Fargo Dream Team, our legal partners that review these documents for us in advance, and of course to Casey and to Sylvia, and then also to Angel Heyman, just a great partner of ours doing amazing, amazing work on these sessions. So with that said, we're giving you back 15 minutes early here for today. So everyone have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of your summer for those that are still experiencing it. If you're back on campus, hey, listen, it's time to handle business. Let's get out there and get the things done we need to get done from that perspective. Let's have an amazing semester, and let's continue to build in the days ahead. That's it from the Beyond College side. We'll see you all in September. Social media smarts and remaining cyber safe. Till then, y'all, good night.